It's finally here, The Abyss on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, released by Disney. It can be found as a slipcover edition available at your local and online retailers. Now, we all have our favorite movies, and the special edition of The Abyss is one of mine. Something about this film really resonated with me, and it's a pure example of how an extended cut can change the tone of the film and its meaning. The theatrical version was okay, but it wasn't until we got the extended version that fully pulled me in. It's a great underwater sci-fi film, and it has a lot of heart, and watching it now, it feels pretty timeless. I recommend this one very much for those considering a blind buy. I do not think you'll be disappointed. The Abyss on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray has both the theatrical and special edition cuts of the film on the same 4K disc. The aspect ratio is 239 to 1, native 4K resolution, and supports both HDR10 and Dolby Vision. For purposes of this review, I will be discussing the Dolby Vision encode. Like most of you probably watching this video, this film in particular has been one of the most requested films to get an updated physical media edition. For sure, we believe that an inevitable Blu-ray was going to be released any year now and have dealt with numerous rumors and speculation. With the introduction of the 4K format, the cycle started all over, and once again we were left waiting. Now that it's finally here, it still feels weird saying that. Let's get started. As someone who has owned every physical media version of this film, this 4K has a lot to live up to. I'm fully aware this transfer is not going to please everybody. No film's transfer does. Something as high profile as this one will surely be divisive. I was fortunate enough to watch the special one-night screening back in December, and I had a few takeaways which I thought would be interesting to see if still held true on this new 4K disc. First, the condition of the source is largely presented clean from start to finish. There were some very minor white specks that dotted the picture on occasion, which was more evident on the larger theater screen, so it was a little bit more difficult to spot them on the home format edition. I suspect the more casual viewer wouldn't even really notice it. It's pretty infrequent and doesn't detract from the experience. As for grain, it's very finely layered throughout. With Cameron being Cameron, a bit of revisionism lessened the intensity here, which will no doubt be rage-inducing to the more staunch purists out there. As for management or use of DNR, as I noted in my theatrical viewing experience write-up, it did leave some instances of smoothing faces and slight waxiness, but not generally at the expense of exhibiting finer detail, in most cases at any rate. In a couple of scenes in the theater, both One Night and Hippie had a bit of noticeable over-smooth look. At home on 4K, I saw a few more instances, with Lindsay for example, that stood out. I don't believe this was a blanket one-size-fits-all application of management, but select, almost surgical in its use. With that caveat, I do find close-ups yield really solid depth to textures. Image clarity is outstanding. The movie has always had a bit of this in its various home media releases, but the 4K certainly takes it to another level. I always use the scene of Bud sneaking up on coffee as an example of this. The glistening water reflection illuminates the scene, and the way Cameron filmed it just looks glorious. The same for when Bud is aboard the underwater craft at the end. Those scenes in particular always looked extra sharp. Of course, there is also the danger that with such clarity comes the potential to look overly processed. Honestly, that's a fair observation, and I personally don't find that to be the case though. You, however, may feel different in your own personal experience. The film's palette leans on the cool side, and I feel Dolby Vision is a bit reserved in its application. Even the spots of the movie that you think would be visual highlights, the glowing alien life for instance, don't overwhelm the color space with melt your eyeball visuals. There is a subtle boldness in these examples during the film, and yet they still produce eye-catching visuals. If anything, Dolby Vision serves as a refinement, nothing more, nothing less. Black levels are penetratingly deep and look excellent. Shadow detail yields no issues, and crush was not spotted during my viewing. The Abyss on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray supports a Dolby Atmos audio mix, which of course folds down to a Dolby True HD 7.1. There's also an English DTS 2.0 mix, a French DTS 5.1, and a Spanish Dolby Digital 5.1 track. I remember being very impressed with the theatrical Dolby Atmos experience, and equally so with it at home as well. The film is ripe with overhead effects, especially considering the subject matter. Anytime there are submersibles, divers, or curious underwater alien life, the surround environment is working overtime. When the crane above the surface crashes to the rig's location down below, it truly feels as if it's literally coming down on top of you. Creaks and groans from within the rig itself intermittently keep you alerted to the fact that the crushing pressure from the ocean is always a danger. Underwater alien life zigzagging around the rears and mid-levels up above are another of the many fun ways the track shows its immersion. Atmospheric effects are prominently featured and very consistent. Dialogue is clean and easy to hear, no issues in that department. The fronts handle their respective audio cues in a very satisfying manner. As for the LFE, this is a heavy hitter. The opening moments with the submarine offer a strong showing, as does the aforementioned crane scene later in the film, and of course, the wave sequence. The low end is not shy and certainly hits with regular authority, so home theater enthusiasts should be pleased overall. Most, if not all, of the previous supplemental material has made its way to this new edition, all of which are located on the third Blu-ray disc. Under Pressure, the making of The Abyss I've seen numerous times, and I always hold as the gold standard to making of featurettes. It runs about an hour or so long and is as in-depth as you could possibly get about the making of. The archival section is a fantastic step-by-step process of nearly every aspect of the film. For the new bits of information, Deep Dive, a conversation with James Cameron, is a partial behind-the-scenes and retrospective, and it's good to hear his recollections so many years later. The Legacy of the Abyss is a 20-plus minute short, and it talks about the film and how it influenced James Cameron's movies going forward. For the picture quality, I'm going to give The Abyss on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray an A-. Despite some revision and changes, the movie has never looked better than it does here on 4K. Visually, I am very happy with what we got, and I can say that it was well worth the long wait for one of my favorite movies. For the audio mix, I scored this one an A. Not to be outdone, the Dolby Atmos is an absolutely worthwhile addition to the film. There is a plentiful array of audio cues, it's full of immersion, and it will please even the most hardcore audiophiles. Settle into that home theater and enjoy the experience. For the extras, I graded them an A. As someone who was quite familiar with the supplements on the old DVD, I was pretty happy to see new content produced for this release. There's honestly a whole afternoon's worth of extras, both new and old, that if you are a fan, you will enjoy the deep dive, no pun intended, of this film. So that is my review of The Abyss on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. If you're interested in picking up a copy for yourself, I will leave a direct to Amazon link in the comments section. If you use it, it really helps out the channel. But if you have the disc already, let me know your thoughts down below. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. I will see you at the movies.